Hello and welcome to the 41 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. I want to let you know it's time to prepare for takeoff because Academy Sports and Outdoors is your new home for Jordan Brand. Swag up today and take flight. On the court, off the court, and above the court, making plays in the latest head-to-toe Jordan gear is fun for the whole family. Jordan collection is available in-store and at academy.com. Elevated styles and shoes for everyone. Unstoppable value every day. Unleash your greatness with the Jordan collection at Academy Sports and Outdoors. And how about Coach Rooney just crushing that read first thing on a Monday morning?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Rooney.
Yes.
Were you called Irish Lightning when you were a point guard in basketball at Malvern Prep?
No, never called Irish Lightning, but I do. Since the fabulous Rune Dogs are in disarray, maybe we need to take on that moniker next year. I don't.
I like it.
But
instead of fabulous Rune Dogs, I kind of like that Irish Lightning.
I'm on it. 5'8" 3/4" though is my height, Fitzy, and I am the best, per capita rebounder in the suburban Philadelphia area. I can box out a fellow guard with anybody and just grab rebounds.
Now, are you just tacking on that 3/4 so that you can try to just sneak past me? I feel we've gone back to back before. I can't remember who won in the height discussion, but I don't know about that 3/4. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I really want to say 5'9" and change and just totally be fallacious, but it's not you and I's height is not as contentious as Chris from Louisville and Dave Neal, the great Coach Neal. They I feel like they go back to back for a measure up every time they do a game together.
Hey, I have a question for Fitzy. Out of curiosity, I have not been to a basketball game at UNC.
Yeah.
But is Jordan like a cult figure there? I know we all love Michael Jordan, but is he if you go to a Carolina game, they have a laundry list of all-time greats, but is Jordan considered a step above the rest in Carolina history?
Yeah, I think that's certainly the case. Yeah, anytime. I haven't been to a Carolina game in 20 years probably. It's been a while, but it's anytime he's in the house, there's a buzz. There's a buzz that you don't get with anyone else. No question about it.
I still want that old school Carolina Jordan jersey, but it might look a little weird with a 41-year-old wearing a basketball jersey.
You still got your Rashid jersey. Bust that thing out, baby.
Simon Gratz High School. That's a Philly
when I was a kid, admittedly, Texas A&M was god-awful in basketball as a kid. So I had to find someone to root for. So I rooted for North Carolina.
And you got your Carolina blue shirt on today, too. You're biased. Biased for Tar Heels.
Carolina basketball.
KR, what was the basketball coach you and Sauce were ranting
Tony
about?
Baroni.
Baroni, that's
Tony
right.
Baroni, who, by the way, I believe, I'll have to get Professor Peterson to confirm this. I believe Tony Baroni actually went to A&M from Creighton. I believe he was the Creighton head baseball coach before he went to A&M.
Well, when you're talking to KP, tell him we want the Coach of the Year award to be named the Tony Baroni Award this year.
Yeah, you know what? By the way, I did like hearing over the weekend with Tommy Hart and KP, Jackie Bradley Jr. getting his debut in the booth. What a lovely guy that he is.
Yeah. Great voice and very, very bright.
He was good.
I always thought he was a bright player. He just seemed like a smart player, and what a slow heartbeat he had as a player. Nothing sped him up.
For sure.
Yeah. Speaking of Knoxville, we'll talk about that in a second. But Tennessee, something a little off on those guys. Fellas.
Yeah. Okay. So perfect segue, KR. I love where your head's at. All right. So here's our kickoff. I'm going to give you guys. I'll rattle off the results for the SEC. Vandy took the series from the Vols. Mizzou sweeping A&M at A&M. Craziness. LSU wins another home series. Arkansas we think is the best team. We think, but they've lost 4 out of 5 series. Kentucky sweeps Oklahoma. Florida wins a series at Texas. Mississippi State won a huge series over Ole Miss. Auburn sweeps South Carolina. Alabama wins a huge series with Georgia. So here, boys, here's what I think is so fascinating. I'm going to read you the last 4 number 1 overall seeds headed into our NCAA tournament. And I want you to tell me if there's any team that could even serve drinks at these other teams' party. So let me give you the 4 teams. 2021, Arkansas. I don't believe they lost a series the entire season until the Super Regional. 2022, Tennessee, one of the all-time great, one of the best records in the history of the SEC, 25-5. Got clipped in a Super Regional. 2023, Wake Forest is who I would pick. But LSU was kind of sitting there with Skeens and Cruz, right? Like they weren't even the number 1 overall seed. I'm pretty sure it was Wake. I know it was Wake. And then 2024 last year, Tennessee lost their first SEC series to Alabama. It was their only series loss of the year. Is there anyone that could even pick up the jock straps in the locker room of these 4 teams in 2025?
I mean, you know who else hasn't lost a weekend series? The Troy Trojans. Yeah.
The Trojans. Welcome to the party, Trojans.
Runes, I would actually argue, like, I like last year's Tennessee and last year's A&M teams way better than any team in college baseball this year right now. And I guess as we get in the postseason, like, we're going to see some heroic performances. We're going to see some team get red hot, and I'll probably walk that comment back because somebody's going to get sizzling hot. But when you look at those two teams, those two teams that played for the national championship last year were very complete. You know, you still have teams like LSU, who's number 1, who, by the way, I think is a really, really good team. But like LSU's bullpen pieces still aren't final. You know, Arkansas is one of those teams that they looked really good against Texas. On the road against LSU, just looked okay. So I feel like there are a lot of just unfinished business with even the elite teams in college baseball this year. Whereas I felt like teams like A&M and Tennessee last year, I mean, they were finished business like in, you know, mid to late April. Like they were elite, like no real question marks for those teams, you know, by the time we got to this point in the season last year.
I really don't have any major question marks with LSU and Arkansas. I do think that series this weekend for me felt like the 2 best teams in the country, even though LSU kind of won those first 2 games, you know, fairly. I guess the second game they won fairly handily. The first game was a gem, but they won the series at home. But I mean, you know, it's the SEC the teams this year, maybe as much as I can remember, it's just the home road splits seem very exaggerated. And LSU is 6-7 on the road, and Arkansas is 8-7 on the road. Like, you know, like a lot of teams, they're better at home, you know, shocker. But I don't, you know, I'm not that worried. But I mean, like LSU has like a dude in the bullpen, and it has lots of really exciting young arms. It's just a matter of will those guys be grown up enough in time for the postseason, you know, and I kind of think that they will. I think Coach Nathan will have them ready. And I mean, I guess if you had to pick one thing about LSU that's a concern, I guess it's the bullpen. I mean, you've been kind of meh on their offense for a good chunk of the year, Kendall. But I mean, I like their lineup. I've talked about
they look better over the weekend for sure.
I think I'm the high man on their position player pieces, but I like their position player group. And I think everything about Arkansas, you know, on paper, there's not really a weakness. I don't know. I think it's pretty complete club. But all that said, I mean, just the seasons they've had to this point, they've had very good years. But you're right. It does not feel like it's that overwhelming, you know, to Coach Rooney's point, that overwhelming year that those other teams, you know, have had over the last 3 or 4 years. It doesn't feel like we've got that super juggernaut. It feels like number 1 is still kind of wide open as we head into, you know, the home stretch. Who's going to be number 1 overall seed? I mean, it'll probably be one of those SEC teams, but it's unclear at this point, and that's interesting.
Yeah, and one other team I'd bring up too, I mean, as we talk about teams that we feel have been the most consistent and might be the most complete, I mean, I think you'd have to throw Coastal into this discussion, even though they're number 11. I mean, if you look at Coastal, you know, they're not one of those teams that's hitting, you know, they're not hitting 315 as a club, but I mean, they're hitting around 290, and they're pitching with Jacob Morrison and company. They've been really good on the mound this year. It's just hard to tell because the Sun Belt's kind of down outside of the top 3 teams. But I mean, Coastal's been pretty consistent and pretty complete.
Yeah, I would say, Fitzy, you know Coastal better than any of us, but you said something a couple pods ago that I really has resonated with me, is that we think this is Coastal's best team since 2016. Certainly their best pitching staff. Now, the one thing I noticed this weekend is like that rotation seems awesome. Like Jacob Morrison's like some 6'8" kid from Michigan that throws really hard. Cam Fluke, 6'6" from South Jersey. Now, Cam Fluke did not start this weekend. I'm really curious to learn more about that. I think there was a Thursday to Saturday series, so maybe that had something to do with it. And then Riley Eichhoff is this like consummate strike thrower. Their position player group, it just seems really game and up for it. I'm with you, Kendall. Coastal seems fun.
And even in the bullpen, I mean, again, you're looking for teams that have strong bullpens. I am. I'm always looking for bullpen strength and heading into the postseason. And I mean, Ryan Lynch, Dominic Carbone. I mean, that's a great 1-2 that they can trust. And Matthew Potok, who's been around and is just a quality veteran guy. Like, it's a nice group of guys that they can really. They've got more beyond that too. They got plenty of depth in that bullpen. I think it's a great pitching staff. I really do.
Yeah. Hey boys, let's put because we do have a little bit of a time crunch for this pod. We have a hard stop, but just to put a bow on the SEC, I think one of the biggest questions for the Nerdcast this week, which it's not fair to have to answer it yet, but this is where my brain is going. One of the most fascinating bubble teams is going to be A&M because they lost this series with Missouri and it wasn't a good look, and they have this horrible RPI for their RPI is like in the 50s. So if A&M doesn't win the series at Georgia, it doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't. But let's pretend that they do.
They need to do more than win the series at Georgia, in my mind.
Yeah. Well, and I think I just want to tee up the question for the listeners, honestly, because you guys will debate this in the Nerdcast. You don't have to. I'm not asking you to do it twice, but I would ask you, like, if you think the question's poorly formed. I think here's the question: we assume that A&M wins the series at Georgia. Big assumption, by the way. Georgia's tough at home. That would give A&M 12 SEC wins. Still not a very good RPI, I don't think. It'd be in the 50s probably. And they would have series wins over Cal Poly, Georgia on the road, LSU, Arkansas on the road, Tennessee on the road. I mean, I can't remember a more fascinating resume in the last 10 years than that.
Yeah, I mean, here's where I'm at with A&M is you were in position to make the postseason. You were at home against a Missouri team who had been a punching bag in this league all season long.
Winless.
Winless. You played lifeless. After Friday's game, you would have thought, after Friday's game, you get embarrassed by a winless team. You think, okay, well, this team's going to come out on Saturday and Sunday. They're just going to go scorched earth. Instead, they kind of played dead the rest of the weekend. And, like, if I'm the committee, like, I'm looking at that and going, like, is this the team we really want to put in the postseason? So I think not only do they need to play well against Georgia, I think they need to make, I wouldn't say a bunch of noise, but I think they need to win a game or two in Hoover, even after winning the Georgia series, to kind of prove they belong. With that said, I mean, it would be foolish to say that this is a team that if they made the postseason, they couldn't go on a run. I think they can. But do they deserve to be in as of today? Absolutely not. Here's an interesting tweet I saw over the weekend. If you would have put $100 on Missouri on Friday and rolled your winnings over to the next day, and then bet the same amount and rolled it over to Sunday, you would have won $68,000 on a $100 bet on Friday. Had you bet Missouri would sweep A&M in College Station. That's how unlikely that was.
Crazy. Fitzy, can I twist your answer here for a second? I want you to take us to Virginia on this because A&M and Virginia, like this will take us to the ACC. Virginia sweeps Miami, who had been as hot as anybody. And I think that's the second most fascinating resume. Virginia's finish your thought on A&M, Fitzy, but I think let's take that to the ACC from there.
I'm burying the Aggies. I'm out. I mean, frankly, just an absolute embarrassment. An absolute embarrassment. This team, for God's sakes, 0-24, not just winlessly, 0-24. All year long, people have been talking about Missouri. Are they the worst Power 4 team of all time? You've got this team at home in a must-win weekend, and you get swept. I'm just blown away. Do you even want to go to? Do you even care? I don't understand. It's like
anybody that watched them over the weekend. I mean, let's be honest. Like, it looked like a team that didn't give a shit. They really did.
It's a tough scene right there. And I'm not, and I was holding on like A&M's going to be, they're in the postseason. They're going to make a run like Florida last year. Like, they just kind of, better late than never. And now I'm out. Screw that. I'm out. Like, this cannot happen. That was just wow. And I can't think of a more stunning regular season result in my entire career than that. Even though it's not like Aggies were like some they weren't world beaters, they were still like a bubble team. However, given the circumstances of that series, I'm, in the postseason, we've had some stunners. Sure. Regular season, I mean, I can't remember anything that just blew me away more than that. Anyway.
Bonkers. Hey, Fitzy, so let's tee this up with Virginia. So the question on Virginia is, what has changed? Because Virginia lost 4 of their first 5 series in the ACC, including BC and at Cal. They almost got swept at Cal. They got swept at home by Duke. And now they have gone 5-1 against Georgia Tech and Miami in the last 2 weekends. What has changed for Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think part of it is I think they're getting closer to playing to their potential, and they just for a while they were just kind of, I think, pressing, and I don't know if what it was in the beginning. I think part of it was the bullpen. The bullpen has been an adventure for a good chunk of the year. After they lost Matt Augustin for the year with injury, that was a key blow for them. And so it was kind of trying to figure that piece out. And it has felt like a lot of their wins, even this weekend, it's just been like hold on for dear life, which still concerns me a little bit. It just feels like that bullpen remains a little bit of an issue. But I mean, you've got Evan Blanco now pitching in kind of that bridge role, middle relief, which it wasn't working for him in the rotation. So, he was effective, I think, in the middle game there against Miami. I was there the first game on Friday, and they had, the arm that they brought out of the bullpen was not someone.
Who's this Marcus dude?
Alex Marcus. That's it. It's a guy who he spent his first 4 years in D2 or D3. And pitched like a total of 14 innings. And then last year he was at William and Mary and had like a lot of walks. And remember in the fall, I saw him in the fall, it's good arm. I was like, okay, like if he can throw enough strikes, he's an interesting wild card. And he really didn't throw enough strikes, in the first half of the season. I mean, entering Friday night, he had more walks than strikeouts on the year. And they run him out there in the 7th inning on Friday against Miami, and he takes it the distance and just shoves and throws strikes. And it's, up to 97, I think, with a wipeout slide piece. And it's like, whoa, okay. So like that's the kind of thing that they need, I think, is an extra arm or two to kind of emerge back there to help out, Lansendorfer, the closer, and some of the other guys they have. And I think Marcus was not as effective later in the weekend. They brought him back on Sunday, but I mean, he's a guy that has the ability to be an impact guy. And obviously getting Hodges, excuse me, had Pearl Jam last night, boys. So my voice is a little weak.
Left it at the concert.
Yeah, were you a guest singer?
No, well, I did my share, but Bradley Hodges coming back from injury had been huge. He was not good this weekend. We'll see how that goes, but I mean, like that's obviously like a guy that was supposed to be their number one, I think, or so heading into last year before he got hurt, and so that's another key piece. I think getting Harrison Diduit going again. I mean, a guy that was hitting less than 200 heading into the weekend and had tied their school record for home runs last year. And it's like where's he been? And I think just kind of for a lot of these guys, it's been like kind of climb out of it. Jacob Ferentz was terrible in the first half, and he's kind of back. And so like a lot of pieces that just started slow, and now they're just all kind of. It does feel like they're generally coalescing, and they're, as Kendall said, they're trending. They're actually right next to the Aggies in the RPI, so like they're still not safe, but at least they have a much better conference record and momentum, and you can see a path for UVA.
Hey Kendall, let me ask you a question on the ACC, and then I want to keep moving. So Georgia Tech won a weird series from Louisville, right? Like Louisville bombs them in game 1, and then they have to play a doubleheader the final day, and like Louisville doesn't hit at all, and Georgia Tech pitches like we haven't seen them pitch in a month. And then Duke wins the series at Clemson, which is, Clemson's a hard place to play no matter how well they're playing or not playing. Of those 4 teams, Kendall, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Duke, and Clemson, if I gave you $100 to pour into their postseason shares, which of those 4 teams would you invest in?
Kind
of tricky, isn't it?
That is tricky. Probably Duke. Like I kind of feel like they've played very well over the last few weeks. I feel like Clemson. Even though I really like Clemson's club, I don't like the way they played the last couple of weeks. So I go this time of year, I go with the hot hand, and I feel like Duke is playing a little bit higher level in those teams. I guess we'll find out this weekend with Georgia Tech going to Durham.
Yeah. Fitzy, you have a strong opinion on those 4 teams?
Can you give me the 4 again? I was zoning out.
Yeah. No, Georgia Tech and Louisville, Duke and Clemson, the 4 teams that played. Yep.
Hashtag pay attention.
That is good. I pulled the KR. That is good.
I went Duke.
Yeah. So I mean, it's. I mean, gosh, that's really tough because like all these teams have interesting things and warts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I do feel like Clemson's going to make a run still.
Me too. I can't get that out. I have this gut feel on Clemson I can't ignore.
I love kind of Bakic's post game the other day. We're like, like this is kind of like, well, this is what we need. You know, so we're going to make this run. It's going to be electric and it's going to be epic. You know, like back against the wall. Like he loves that stuff. But it almost sounds like, maybe you're, thou dost protest too much or something. It seemed a little bit like maybe trying to send his team a message, but like, I don't know. Like it's just, they have been fighting it, and obviously their starting pitching has been a concern, and I don't know. But like, I guess if I have to pick one, I think I'm still going to take Clemson. I don't, at the moment, there's not a lot of reason for that. It's just gut feel. And it's just their, I do like their position player group, and we'll see if they can figure it out enough on the mound, but I don't feel that strongly about it. I really don't. I mean, Duke is probably the right answer, but I'm going to take Clemson.
I will say this about Georgia Tech. I was really impressed by GT's pitching stat the last couple of games against Louisville. They get bombed in the series opener. Brady Jones throws 7 shutout, and then Jalen Payton was 6 shutout, and then Mason Patel was really good out of the bullpen. I mean, if Georgia Tech can consistently pitch like that, I mean, they're a pretty scary club.
Yeah, I just think the ACC is going to be fascinating because, like Louisville, I still think that offense is as dynamic as anyone's. Like, if Louisville ends up in a regional that is offensive, they could be a hot mess for somebody. And definitely. I don't know what to make of Duke. They're the team that is I've been the slowest to get to, but I mean they're playing so well. NC State was interesting this weekend to me because UNC in the game 1 just felt better. Like I watched that and I'm like, okay, NC State kind of got found out a little bit. UNC just looks way better to me. And then, of course, what happens in game 2, NC State wins, right? It's like as soon as I walk away from NC State, they are like, yep, here we are again. So I don't know. You were there, Fitzy, but that was fascinating.
I think those two teams are actually quite similar. I really do. I mean, it's like kind of solid position player groups, but not like on par with the best position player groups that either of them have had, or even last year's groups in my mind. But like they've gotten better in both cases. They've gotten better as the season has gone along. They're solid, not like that much star power, but they're just kind of solid and they grind you out. And then, quality, dependable weekend rotations, which not a lot of teams have, and a handful of good pieces in the bullpen, and, freshmen playing key roles there for both of them, with Anderson Nance for NC State. And of course the 3 guys for UNC. And so they feel to me very similar. And so, Carolina's got a much higher RPI. That's the biggest difference. Otherwise they're basically mirror images of each other.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I mean, it's when we were going through this, I was thinking, man, the ACC tournament will be a blast. Like all the tournaments are a blast. But
and I kind of still feel like NC State as well is going to end up being in good shape to host. I mean, RPI is up to 25, up 11 spots. They've got Stanford at home this weekend.
Are they in first place now, or they're not in first place anymore?
They are actually tied with Georgia Tech for second place.
Oh, Florida State's in first place.
Yeah. There's
but
a
it could
big
all
jumble at the top. There's Florida State, Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, and North Carolina are all within a game of each other.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of percentage points there with some uneven number of games between those top 4.
Speaking of no one wants – oh, go ahead, Kendall. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I was just going to say Duke's only a game and a half out. We just talked about Virginia. This could be one area where it really helps UVA. And we talk so much. We'll talk more about this on the Nerdcast about, if your RPI is going to be lower, you have to have something that cancels that out. Virginia is only 2 games out of first place in the ACC.
Yeah.
So if they finish strong, they win that series at Virginia Tech this weekend. Let's say they finish 4th or 5th in the ACC, they're getting in.
Yes. Perfect segue. Yes. That will be interesting. The Nerdcast, again, I'm a sicko. I'm listening to it twice a week. Can't get enough of you guys. You know what else I can't get enough of, Fitzy?
Oh, yeah. What do we got? Boots? Your boots?
Tecovas boots. Can't get enough of Tecovas boots. If you love our game, you know that smell. The one that brings you right back. Fresh cut grass, a broken in glove made with real leather. It's exactly what you get with Tecovas boots. They're made for baseball people, whether you've been wearing boots your whole life or you're picking up your first pair. With over 200 steps of craftsmanship, they're built to last. They feel great right out of the box, and they look even better. Anywhere worth going, like a Pearl Jam concert, is worth going in good boots.
Ooh,
Find your pair today at Tecovas.
Fitzy, did you wear your Tecovas boots to Pearl Jam last night?
I'm still waiting for mine. So no.
Well, you got to go do the activation at the store in Raleigh.
There we go.
I had this perfect segue, and I'm still going to use it. I'm going to force it, but I had to do the Tecovas boots, Reed, and Fitzy gave me a perfect segue for that. Okay. My segue was going to be, speaking of leagues where nobody wants to finish in first place, let's talk about the Big 12 for a second.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. Kansas State wins the series at home over West Virginia. West Virginia's bullpen had been elite all year, like elite, and they exploded twice. So that can't feel good. Like, they gave up 16 runs in the final 2 innings of the 2 losses. Wow. TCU won the series over Cincinnati, but did not sweep. I watched a little bit of that. Those 2 teams are impressive. I like those 2 teams. Utah, of course, goes to Tucson and wins the series from Arizona. Don't know what to make of that. Utah was in dead last. And Oklahoma State wins the series at Baylor, and they were so close to sweeping that series, but could not pull it off. Kendall, why don't you start us off there? What jumped out in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think for me, I thought Arizona, after that TCU series win, Arizona's pitching had been impressive the previous weekend against TCU at home. They gave up 7 runs in 2 games. I thought the fact that the first couple of games of that series, they allowed 21 runs to Utah to lose that series. That just kind of surprised me. They allowed 7 more runs in the series finale. Number one, I expected Arizona to win that series, but the pitching has struggled that much against Utah. Give the Utes credit, but when you're trying to host a regional, you've got to win a series like that. And Arizona's RPI, as a result, is now down to 41. The other team I want to mention, Arizona State. This is a team that, just a few weeks ago, Runes, we were talking about, hey, like, are they even going to make the postseason at this point? And, the Sun Devils over the last few weeks, series went over Texas Tech, series went over BYU, won a Baylor series on the road after losing the series opener. Once again, they lose a series opener U of H this past weekend at home, thanks to Antoine John. But they come back and score 26 runs in the final 2 games. So the Sun Devils all of a sudden in a really good spot. I mean, they're just 2 games out of first place, and they're on quite a roll going into Oklahoma State this weekend. And then TCU. We kind of wondered who could cool off Cincinnati. TCU was that team. TCU, somebody asked this morning, by the way, since we did release the latest top 25, somebody asked about TCU being ranked. I think the biggest thing with us, and really this applies to the entire Big 12, is like some sort of pattern is consistency. It feels like every single week we're putting in a Big 12 team, we're taking them out, we're putting them in, taking them out. And I just want to see consistency out of TCU. And the same goes for the rest of these teams.
Love it. The Big 12 it'll be interesting. Antoine Jean I did watch the end of that game where he did beat ASU, and it was a close game, came down to the last pitch. Yeah. That was my big takeaway from the weekend. Like I tweeted this, but I was out of breath on Sunday night. Like, so many games all weekend, like the last pitch of the game mattered, and that was so awesome. Antoine Jean is so fun because he's this Canadian lefty who started Alabama, and he was kind of like the best man for Connor Prelip, and we were so excited about what was going on in Alabama. And then he's got this gnarly curveball that looks unhittable for left-handers. But
yeah, it's interesting arm action.
Big, like it's downhill. Woo.
Yeah, absolutely. One other team I'd like to mention, Kansas State. Again, they were another team, a little bit like ASU, that we kind of wondered they were a little wobbly a few weeks ago, but all of a sudden, a team that Fitzy was very high on early in the season, they've won 3 straight series, including scoring 22 runs in the 2 wins over West Virginia. All of a sudden, Pete Hughes' Wildcats starting to trim back up a little bit.
Yeah, and they needed this for sure because they were wobbly. But now you look up, they're 16-11, in the league. 36 RPI. I mean, they should be fine now, even though the Q1 record isn't great. But this is kind of gives them that marquee series win. And I think, you mentioned Runes, the bullpen for West Virginia not being able to hold it. That's certainly a storyline here. But I also just really like this Kansas State position player group. I said it a lot early in the year, and like they can jump up and get you. They can really string stuff together. There's length in that lineup. There's plenty of athleticism. There's power, and speed, and it's just I think is a fun team. And, I look forward to seeing them in the postseason because I think they could make a run, especially like they have a nice group of arms. There's 3 lefties in the rotation if they're pitching well at the right time, which, they got a good start this weekend from Jacob Frost at the top and then maybe not as much from the other 2 guys. But if those guys are all locked in, I've seen them. I mean, they're tough.
Yep. The Big 12, I will be at that conference tournament. There are some really fun position players in that league. I think the pitching's fine. I'm not here to say the Big 12 has bad pitching. That's clearly not true. I don't know that it has elite pitching. It has maybe enough pitching will be the answer. But man, they have some position players that you would want in any league. So and then Carrington Cross, who probably will be their player of the year. It's just so fun. I think I said this on a previous pod, but I swear to goodness, he's Jenny and I's UPS driver. I mean, he totally looks like a UPS driver. And I mean that as the highest compliment. Like he's just 6 foot and 200 pounds and he's right-handed. He doesn't even play in the middle of the
Mr.
field.
College Baseball.
Oh, he's such a baller. I mean, he's just such a baller. He's awesome. So Carrington Cross, you have my vote. Boys, let's cover some other results real quick.
Yep.
The Beavers went to Des Moines, Iowa, and won the series 2-0-1. Iowa came screaming back to tie that up, and they couldn't finish the game because of curfew. That was important. I mean, Iowa really needed to win that 3rd game. But by the way, good on you, Iowa. The scenes there looked awesome. Like they had good weather. They played in the AAA ballpark where the Iowa Cubs play. And I heard somebody say they had 7,000 people at one of the games. It looked awesome. Oregon State looked good. Iowa looks the part. They just didn't win the games. They did one of their rotation guys. I think Reese Buter didn't make a start, and that is a little concerning. So UCLA won. They swept Illinois. Michigan State won a series against USC, and then Oregon swept Washington. I will say that like Iowa's in that Virginia A&M category of they're not the same, obviously, but like interesting candidacy for the NCAA tournament, like one that you're going to watch all the way through. And this was not a good weekend for Iowa's candidacy, not just because of what they did or didn't do, but UCLA and Oregon could end up winning that league, and that would just like torpedo Iowa's candidacy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they got to win the league with their RPI. I think they got to win the regular season title, or obviously the conference tournament they could win, but they have got to do that if they're going to get that large bid, because that RPI is just not where it needs to be, and there's not enough Q1 victories. This was a big opportunity for them. A big opportunity to win a marquee series and bolster their case in their own state in front of great crowds, and they couldn't get it done. So, yeah, that's we'll see what happens. This series against Oregon is huge. Certainly, I mean, you win that series, that's another opportunity to get you some marquee victories, and maybe that would be enough because it probably would get them the regular season title if they could pull it off.
Yep, Kendall, let me steer you to a couple teams because like Fitzy just mentioned Oregon. Dallas Baptist went 3-0 against Kennesaw State. I thought that was a big result this weekend. Notre Dame went 3-0 against Bowling Green. Bowling Green's good. Notre Dame just needed to take care of business, and they're still kind of they're alive. USM looked pretty dominant against Louisiana, winning that series 3-0. Sac State, by the way, won a series at Utah Valley, and they are in first place in the WAC. I'll finish with San Diego, but Kendall, like Oregon, DBU, and Southern Miss, they all look like they're kind of in hold my beer mode. Like those 3 teams look like to me, like those are teams with pedigree that are kind of like, okay, did you guys say it's May 10th? Here we go. Like, let's get after this thing.
Yeah, the one thing I really like about Oregon is we were obviously very bullish on them coming into the season. I had a moment in the middle of the year where I was a little wobbly on them. But, the Ducks all of a sudden have won 6 straight series. And you know what? Even against the Michigan States and the Washingtons of the world, they're actually kind of playing like they care. Early in the season, when they play a team that wasn't great, it would almost be like they slept walk through the weekend. Now it feels like their pitching is really kind of coming to form. Grayson Grenzel once again over the weekend, 8 strikeouts, and I think it was 7 shutout against UW. Their pitching the last couple of weekends has been really good. And if you combine good pitching with an offensive lineman that has, Mason DeVille, Jacob Walsh, and guys like that, that's a dangerous team in the postseason. Honestly, I'd probably have Oregon as one of my Omaha teams if they continue to pitch at that level, considering the experience they had in the Super last year. So really bullish on Oregon. I was going to bring up another result here, guys. Holy Cross did win a series over the Mountain Hawks over the weekend in the Patriot League tournament. So I know Fitzy was excited about that one. Can I bring up one more team real quick while we're kind of hopping around the country before Fitzy gets out of here?
Do it.
I do want his take on UTSA. You know, with the top 25 rankings this week, Ruins, you, me, and Joe really talked a lot last night, kind of comparing Northeastern to UTSA. It was really close between those two teams. UTSA is just running away with the American Athletic Conference regular season championship. Fitzy, what was kind of your feeling on just Mason, Little and that UTSA lineup?
They're relentless. They're really good, and Joe Healy was all over this one. Really, I mean, he saw them early. I think at Charlotte, and I went back and looked at what he wrote. It was like, yeah, it holds up. I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff. They just grind out so many quality at bats. All these mature veterans that they have in their lineup, and they've got like a legit rotation too. Where again, we talk about how rare it is to have three guys who give you consistent outings in the rotation, three guys you can count on. I mean, Zach Royce and Connor Miles and Braylon Owens, they've started all 13 weekends for this team, all three of them. And they're good. I mean, Royce is up to 97 with a, wipeout slide piece, cutter slider. And Kelly and Connor Kelly out of the bullpen's a good piece. And certainly Robert Orlowski at the back end. Like it's like there's enough arms here. I mean, it's probably not, one of the deepest staffs out there, but like when you got three guys who are horses who can give you length and then a couple of guys in the bullpen that can shorten games, like, that makes them very, very dangerous when you combine that with their offense, and gosh, it's just a team that grinds you down. I mean, it's, not the sexiest offense. There is some power though. And there's some guys who can run. Obviously Mason Lytle's just an absolute baller, 5'10", old guy who just hits, baby. He just hits. And well, he does everything. He also runs and has some pop and defends. Like he doesn't just hit. He does a lot of things, but he really hits. And he was a guy that came up with a big hit for them. I think in the series clinching game, of course he did, because that's just kind of what he does. He had a fastball in on him and he just turned on it and laced it in the corner for like a 2 or 3 run double. So he's fun, man. And they're fun. Really good team. Top 25 caliber team for me. I would have loved to have had him in this week, but I understand they lost the head-to-head to DBU, so we couldn't really bring them in over DBU. And so then it just kind of, teams that have similar resumes, right? So then it just came down to them versus Northeastern, and that winning streak for Northeastern is very loud, and Northeastern is also very good and legit. So some quality, dangerous mid-majors kind of lurking as we head into the tournament.
Do you feel like ECU season is a kind of a blip on the radar screen, or is this a potential trendsetter?
No, to me it felt like this was going to be a transition year. Like, I mean, I even wrote in the fall, like, I didn't have the guts to pick them not to win the league because they're East Carolina. Yeah. It's like until further notice, someone had to prove it. But like I wrote that this felt like the most vulnerable heading into a season that they've been, in the last decade. And it just felt like a transition year. They lost a lot of important older guys from last year. They lost a couple of very high profile pieces in the portal.
Yes, Zach Root's okay.
Yeah, he's all right. And it's just a very young team that they had their own transfers too, and some of them have worked out okay, and some of them haven't really done what they hoped. And just, I love their freshman class though. And, as those guys continue to grow, hopefully they all stay, but like, as those guys continue to grow, I think this team will be much better next year. And I'm not ruling out the chance they can make a run in the conference tournament because it's East Carolina, but next year should be a much better season. I think they'll get back quickly to the standard we're used to.
Yep. Love it. Boys, let's wrap it there. I want to mention a few teams as we close. San Diego started out the year 6-24. They're now on a 16-4 run. They are 22-28, and they are winning the WCC. So good on Brock Ungrich and those guys. I mean, that's not easy to do. We have 7 regular season champions already crowned, to my knowledge. Bryant won the NEC. UTSA clinched the American. Irvine clinched the Big West. Northeastern clinched the CAA. Wright State, you've mentioned that previously, Kendall, they clinched the Horizon. Yeah. Yale won the Ivy League regular season, and then you mentioned Fitzy Satyrs. And then won the Patriot League. And the Satyrs and Army will face off this week for the AQ. Army trying to go for 7 in a row. And I know, Kendall, Army is your designated Patriot League team.
And Black Fitzy, Knights forever, baby.
Yeah. And so good luck to you guys. Good luck. I know this is rivalry week between you two great friends. So good luck.
Yeah, Fitt and I are going to meet halfway and watch the series together.
We should do that. That would be electric.
On a boat on the Hudson. So that's it. Everybody, this is amazing. We have 1 week of the regular season left. By the time you're listening to this, you may be a week away from watching conference tournament games in your office while you're pretending to work. I hope you're doing that. Everyone enjoy the final week of the regular season, and we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.